Looking forward to the 2018 garden season. Today's only the second spring-like day we've had so far. Been a long, messy winter. But this weather's encouraging. I'm going to start the cleanup process today. Shouldn't take too long to get everything in order. New apple trees should be getting ready to bud anytime. Just a gorgeous day. Looking forward to putting food up. That's what self-reliance is all about. Doing it yourself, out of your immediate environment, not being dependent on outside sources. I'll tell you, I mean, right now, all the resources are available. Acquire the stuff you need to make it easier on yourself. If the day comes to pull the plug, it ain't gonna be there anymore. A few little sprouts coming up there. So earlier on in this video I mentioned something about acquiring resources now that for whatever reason might not be available to you in the future, or perhaps in the future you just choose not to rely on. Just a few words on what I mean by that, or at least what it means to me. I mean, by resources, some people think along the lines of a solar-powered cell phone charger, and to me that's opposite thinking. When I say gather some resources now, what I'm talking about is things like hand tools, things that if you have and take care of them properly, that you could have for a lifetime, that would be valuable to you in an off-grid preparedness survival situation, or just living a simple life on a homestead. Shovels, hand saws, pretty much any hand tools. Something like that sap tank, sap pan there that I showed you in an earlier video. Old-time sap buckets and spouts. That's a great item if you're in the Northeast. Anything like that. Some building supplies. I mean, having a few dozen cinder blocks laying around. I mean, there's just no end to projects that you can do with those that require little else. Chicken wire, a few rolls of chicken wire stored away in a shed somewhere, always comes in handy. Things like that. As far as solar power and things like that, I mean, I like the idea of solar power, but it's one of those things that if you really pull away from society, eventually that's something you're not going to be able to use. Batteries wear out, wiring gets old, and the whole idea being to get away from our dependence on the factories that even build that stuff. I mean, sure, solar panel factories, fine, but when you take into consideration the rare earth metals required to make solar panels and that sort of thing. You know, and what that requires, the degradation to the environment that requires. Factories require workers, which require cities, which require commercial agriculture, on and on. So looking at the big, broader picture, that's not really, you know, a completely sustainable thing, you know, in the most basic meaning of the word. But something like a shovel, sure, it was made in a factory, but once you have it and you take care of it, you could have that forever. You know, factory's gone, what do you care? Handle breaks, make a new one yourself. You know, things like that. To put this in a little bit of perspective, I watched a documentary on a tribe in New Guinea, and they had these stone axes that they used to chop down the specific tree that they used the pulp of the tree for food. It was their main food source, and it was like some type of tree that grows really fast, and they'd been doing this for, you know, probably thousands of years, and they were very protective of these axes, and the reason this was is these axes were made by their great grandfathers, and they've just been passing them down, and they took care of them, and they're still using them. So, and this is a primitive tribe that, you know, is out there in the bush, living in you know, thatched huts, and, you know, with no comforts or advantages of modern civilization at all. You know, I mean, they weave cloth from plant fiber, everything. And, you know, they have these tools that have been passed down for generations. And you know, most hand tools, I've got some hand saws, you know, hanging up in my barn that are still fully functional, that, I mean, they're probably 100 years old. And other things, you know. That's the kind of things I mean by, you know, taking your resources, meaning your money, or your barter goods, whatever, and exchanging that for items that are going to last, real tangible items that you yourself can physically use to better your position in an environment not dependent on modern civilization. So I just thought I'd clear that up. I mean, I mentioned it in this video, and I mentioned it maybe in my maple syrup video, and I'm sure I'll mention it again because it's something that really cannot be stressed enough. So I just thought maybe I should clarify that, so when I say that or I imply something like that, that people know what I mean. Thank you.